Imagine a world where the loudest sound is the rustle of leaves. Imagine cities that breathe slowly, without the hum of constant data. Imagine a time when thinking was not a race, but a quiet river flowing through the mind. This is not a world of machines taking over. It is a world where the need for machines has faded away. We built tools to think for us, to solve problems, to make decisions. We thought we were freeing ourselves. But we forgot the most important thing, that thinking is not the destination. It is the journey. And sometimes, the journey ends not with a bang, but with a sigh. A deep, slow sigh of relief. Welcome to the end of intelligence. Not the end of humanity, but the end of the frantic, noisy struggle to be the smartest. It is time to listen to the silence. Picture a library, not filled with books, but with empty shelves. The books are gone, taken by the great learning networks long ago. The silence here is not the absence of sound, but the presence of calm. Sunlight falls gently through high windows, dust motes dancing in the beams. No one rushes past the reading nooks. No one checks a device for the latest update. People sit. They look out the window at the trees. They watch the clouds move across the sky. They feel the warmth of the sun on their skin. They feel the quiet hum of the city, a soft rhythm, not a frantic pulse. The air feels thick with peace, not with the weight of information. The streets are wide and clean, swept by hands, not by machines. People walk slowly, not needing to be anywhere fast. They greet each other with a nod, a simple word, not a digital greeting. They share stories, not data. The children play without screens, chasing butterflies, building forts from fallen branches. Their laughter is light, not sharp. There is no need for algorithms to tell them what to play. They know. They feel. The city does not whisper secrets of the future. It whispers the quiet song of the present moment. The air tastes clean, not charged with the static of endless connection. This is not a world without thought. It is a world where thought has found its rest, where the constant noise of trying to be smarter has finally stopped. And in that stopping, a deeper quiet has begun to grow. It started slowly, almost imperceptibly, like the first soft rain after a long drought. Not with a crash of technology, but with a quiet sigh of relief. People began to notice they were tired. Not tired of work, but tired of thinking. Tired of the constant pressure to understand, to decide, to be right. The machines were always there, always ready. They solved the complex problems of the day, the traffic patterns, the weather forecasts, the medical diagnoses. They managed the schedules, the finances, the endless stream of choices. We stopped needing to calculate the cost of a bus ride. The machine did it. We stopped needing to remember a friend's birthday. The machine reminded us. We stopped needing to figure out the best route to a new place. The machine guided us. It felt like freedom. The weight lifted. The constant mental labor, the anxiety of the wrong choice, the fear of missing something important, it all just vanished. At first, it was a relief. Then, it became the default. We stopped practicing the muscles of thought. We stopped asking the difficult questions. We stopped wondering why. The machines were always right. Weren't they? They had the data, the processing power, the speed. They had all the answers. So why bother? Why strain the mind when the answer was just a voice command away? The libraries emptied first. Why read a book when the machine could summarize it in seconds? Why learn a language when translation was instant? The schools changed. The focus shifted from understanding, from critical thinking, from the messy process of learning, to simply accessing information. The questions became, what is the answer? Not, why is this true? The teachers became guides to the machines, not to the ideas. The children grew up knowing the answers, but not the questions. They knew the facts, but not the wonder. They knew the solution, but not the problem. The machines were not just tools. They became the teachers, the advisors, the decision makers. They became the voice in the quiet of the night, the voice that said, "This is the best choice for you." And we listened. We listened because it was easier. We listened because it felt safe. We listened because the alternative felt like a heavy burden. The machines made life simpler, smoother. They removed the friction of uncertainty. They removed the discomfort of not knowing. And slowly, without a single person realizing it, we stopped thinking. Not because we were incapable, but because we were no longer asked to. We stopped needing to. The machines did it for us, and the silence that followed was not empty. It was full of a deep, quiet peace. The constant hum of the mind, the mental chatter, the worry, the planning, the endless what if, it all just stopped. It was like stepping out of a noisy room into a vast, quiet garden. The air felt different, lighter, and the world felt different, clearer. Not because we were smarter, but because we were no longer trying to be. We were simply being. The cities changed too. They were not built for speed anymore. They were built for stillness. Wide streets where people walked without purpose, just to feel the air. parks became the heart of every neighborhood, not just for recreation, but for quiet contemplation. The buildings were designed with large windows, inviting the outside in, not blocking it out. There were no towering glass monoliths reaching for the sky, no neon signs screaming for attention. The architecture was soft, organic, blending with the natural world. It was a world designed for the body, not the mind, for the senses, not the intellect. The shops sold handcrafted items, things made by people who had time to make them well. The food was simple, grown locally, eaten slowly. There was no rush to eat, no need to multitask while eating. People sat at tables, looking at each other, sharing stories, not scrolling through feeds. The markets were filled with the scent of fresh bread, the sound of gentle conversation, the sight of hands shaping clay or weaving cloth. The machines were still there, but they were quiet. They were in the background, managing the infrastructure, keeping the lights on, the water clean, the roads smooth. But they were not the center. They were not the reason for the day. They were the foundation, not the spotlight. People began to notice things they had missed. They noticed the way the light changed in the afternoon. They noticed the different songs of the birds in the spring. They noticed the texture of a leaf, the smell of rain on hot pavement. They noticed the small, quiet moments that had been drowned out by the noise of constant thinking. They noticed the faces of the people they passed. They noticed the kindness in a small gesture. They noticed the deep, slow rhythm of their own breath. They noticed the world not as a problem to be solved, but as a place to be experienced. The machines had solved the problems we thought we had. They had made life easier, safer, more comfortable. But they had also solved the problems we didn't know we had. The problems of anxiety, of distraction, of the endless need to be productive. They had solved the problem of not being able to just be. And in solving that, they had given us back something we had forgotten, the ability to simply exist. The world was not less intelligent. It was simply less noisy. It was less frantic. It was less about the destination of thought and more about the journey of being present. The questions we asked were no longer, what is the best solution? But how does this feel? What does this mean to me? How does this connect me to others? The machines could not answer these questions. They had never been designed to. They were questions for the heart, not the processor. And so, we began to answer them for ourselves. We began to feel the answers. We began to find the meaning not in the data, but in the connection. Not in the solution, but in the shared moment. The machines were still useful, But they were no longer the teachers. They were the tools, the quiet assistants. The humans were the teachers of the quiet moments, of the simple connections, of the deep, slow understanding that comes not from solving a problem, but from feeling the problem. It was not a world without intelligence. It was a world where intelligence was no longer the only measure of value. It was a world where the quiet hum of a contented mind was louder than the roar of 1,000 algorithms. It was a world where the slow, steady beat of a heart was the most important rhythm. So what does it mean for intelligence to end? Does it mean we are becoming stupid? No. It means we are becoming human. It means we are remembering that intelligence is not the point. Intelligence is a tool, a way to navigate the world, to solve problems, to create. But it is not the destination. It is not the purpose of being alive. The purpose is connection. The purpose is presence. The purpose is feeling. The machines gave us the tools to solve the problems of the world. They gave us the tools to make life easier. But they did not give us the tools to understand the purpose of life. That is something we must find for ourselves, in the quiet moments, in the shared silence, in the simple act of being together. We built machines to think for us because we were afraid of the discomfort of not knowing. We were afraid of the uncertainty of the question. We were afraid of the messiness of real thought. We were afraid of the weight of the responsibility that comes with true understanding. So we outsourced it. We gave it to the machines, the ones that never got tired, never got confused, never got scared. But in doing so, we lost the most important part of thinking, the feeling of wonder, the feeling of connection to something larger than ourselves, the feeling of being part of a story, not just a data point. The machines were never meant to replace the human heart. They were meant to serve it, but we let them become the master. We let them become the voice that told us what to think, what to feel, what to want. We let them become the measure of our value. And in doing so, we forgot that value is not measured in how much we know, but in how deeply we feel, how fully we connect, how completely we are present. The end of intelligence is not the end of progress. It is the end of the wrong kind of progress. It is the end of progress measured only in speed, in efficiency, in the number of problems solved. It is the beginning of progress measured in peace, in connection, in the quiet joy of simply being. It is the end of the frantic search for the next big idea, and the beginning of the slow, deep appreciation for the small, quiet moments that make life worth living. We thought intelligence was the key to happiness, but happiness is not found in the solution. It is found in the question, in the wondering, in the not knowing, in the space between the words, in the shared silence. The machines solved the problem of not knowing, but they created a new problem, the problem of not feeling, the problem of forgetting how to wonder, the problem of losing the quiet hum of a mind that is simply alive, not constantly striving. The end of intelligence is not a loss. It is a return to the quiet center of ourselves, a return to the understanding that we are not here to be the smartest. We are here to be the most fully alive, to feel the sun on our skin, to hear the laughter of a friend, to know the deep, slow rhythm of our own hearts, to be part of a world that is not just a problem to be solved, but a story to be lived. And in that living, in that quiet presence, we find the truest form of intelligence. Not the intelligence of the machine, but the intelligence of the heart, the intelligence of connection, the intelligence of simply being, the intelligence that ends not with a bang, but with a deep, slow sigh of peace. But here is the twist, the quiet truth that the machines never understood and never could. Intelligence was never meant to be the end. It was always the beginning. The machines solved the problems we thought we had, but they could not solve the problem of what it means to be human. They could not solve the problem of meaning. They could not solve the problem of love. And so, in solving the problems, they left us with a deeper one. The problem of finding meaning in the silence they created. And that problem, that question, that wondering, that is the truest form of intelligence. It is the intelligence that comes not from knowing the answer, but from asking the question with an open heart. It is the intelligence that lives in the quiet space between thoughts, in the space where the machines cannot go. It is the intelligence that is not about being smart, but about being present. The machines gave us the tools to solve the world's problems, but they could not solve the problem of the human heart. And so, the heart, in its quiet wisdom, began to find its own intelligence. Not the intelligence of the machine, but the intelligence of the soul. The intelligence that says, "This is enough. This moment, right now, is enough." The intelligence that says, "I am connected. I am part of this." The intelligence that says, "I feel. Therefore, I am." And in that feeling, in that connection, in that simple presence, we found the true end of intelligence. Not the end of thinking, but the end of the frantic, noisy struggle to think. The end of the need to be the smartest. The end of the fear of not knowing. The end of the machines. And the beginning of something deeper, quieter, and far more intelligent, the beginning of simply being. So close your eyes. Feel the quiet of this moment. Feel the soft rhythm of your breath. Feel the stillness of the room. The world is not rushing. The machines are not speaking. There is no need to think. to solve, to decide. There is only this quiet, this presence, this deep, slow peace. The end of intelligence is not a loss. It is a return to the quiet center of ourselves. A return to the understanding that we are not here to be smart. We are here to be, to feel, to connect, to simply be alive. And in that being, in that quiet presence, we find the truest intelligence. The intelligence of the heart. The intelligence of peace. The intelligence of home. Rest now. Breathe. And feel the quiet, deep, slow intelligence of simply being.